Hi everyone, it's Sharon, and guess what? I am back today with a new tutorial. This one is going to be on how I did my image transfers when I created that gardener's logbook. I had a number of people ask me for a tutorial on how I did the transfers, so that's what we're going to do today. I just brought an example of one of the pages for those of you who did not see the video, and on each of the pages, I made a transfer and adhered it to these time cards. What I like about these transfers is they are transparent, so you can use them in collage and on book pages and things and have the printing from underneath come through, which I really like. I think that's a neat look. So what I thought we would do today is I just pulled a couple of images that we can use for examples. This is just a journal card from one of my kits. And what I like to do for these transfers is try to find images that have a lot of light space, white space background, because those are the areas that you're going to see through the contact paper and onto the back of your substrate or surface, whatever you put it onto. So I've got this one, and then I've got this wedding picture of my parents, and there's a lot of white on that too, so I think that will work well. So materials, not much, really just an image on, and what works best I think is a lightweight copy paper, because you're going to be peeling that paper off the contact paper. So you don't want anything heavy like cardstock. That would just be a lot harder to do. And then I use for my transfers this Contact brand transparent paper. It's clear matte, and I do get the matte. I like that better because it's not shiny. And it comes in a roll like this. I just bought this on Amazon. So, and what's nice about it on a roll too is there's very little waste, because you can just cut your sections and pieces to fit your image, and then keep the rest on the roll. So I already pre-cut a couple of sections of the contact paper to use for my project today. And I am not lying when I tell you the most difficult part of this project will be to peel this backing off the paper. So I cheated already. I tore off a couple of corners off of these, so we don't have half of the video of me trying to lift up these corners. Okay, so you just peel this paper from the back, and this is sticky. It's just like your shelf liner paper. Let's put these aside. And then I just put the sticky side down onto my image. Try to get that centered. And I'm not fussy about the sizing or even the image. You know, I just loosely cut around it, because in the end, once you have your transfer done, then you can do more of a precise cut around your image. And then what I like to do is just take a card, a plastic card, and burnish that image onto the contact paper. Make sure that ink is adhered nice and tight on there. Get around to the corners. Okay, I've got a towel because we're going to be working with paper. And then do this one. Photos work really well for this technique. Okay, and then get that image burnished on there as well. Okay, pull that up so we've got our image on there nice and tight. Then the next step is to submerge those right in a pan of water. So I usually have a couple pans that I use strictly for crafting, so there are no cookies that will be damaged in the making of this video. And then I just keep these for all of these kinds of projects. So stick these right down in that water, and I usually let them sit for about 30 minutes. It's going to depend on the type of paper you use, the thickness of your paper, but for just regular, like 24-pound copy paper, I think a half an hour is good. That'll loosen up that paper really nicely. So I will pause my video and we will be back in 30 minutes. All right, I am back and it has been about 30 minutes since I put these in the water. And I want to mention one thing that I thought of while I was waiting. A very important point. The images that you have printed for this technique need to be laser print, laser printer images. Because if you use an inkjet, it's going to run all over the place. So very important, laser images. So what I usually do while these are soaking is just kind of rub my finger across the back, make sure they're loosening up. This one I can see is bubbling already. And this one probably is ready to go too. I can feel that it's starting to break up a little bit. So I'm going to take that one out of the water. And what I do then, once this has been soaking, is to just start gently rubbing the paper off the back. Now this is the back of the paper, not the image side, but this back side. And what you're doing is you're rubbing off the paper and the ink will adhere to the contact paper. Now, I usually do it right in this pan. It keeps all the mess in here, all the paper bits. And you want to rub, you know, give it a little elbow grease, but not overly hard because you can rub the ink right off the contact paper also. So you have to be careful of that. And hopefully you can see what's going on in here because all the little paper snippets are going to start floating around in the water. And you want to try to get most, if not all of that paper, those paper layers off, because if you leave some of it on, you'll have kind of a little thin white layer of paper on the back of your image. So I'm just going to take it out so you can kind of see. It's getting clearer. Most of the paper is off now. Just finished rubbing around the sides here. It's kind of a fun, not overly messy project. The results and the reveals are always fun. Now, as I said, if you rub too hard, you might rub some of that ink off. Now, I typically like a nice vintage style, so I don't mind a little bit of it rubbing off. Kind of gives a little vintage look to the picture. Now, normally I'd rinse this in my sink, but I don't have that here. But I think we've got pretty much all of the paper off the back. So I'm going to set this one aside, dry that off a bit, and then grab my other image and start rubbing the back of that one. And you can see the flowers start appearing. And it, you know, it rolls off pretty easy. I usually just find a section where it's got started and then just keep rolling, and that paper comes off pretty easily. Now, I haven't tried this with a really thin paper, like a newsprint type of paper. That might even work better. I'm not sure, because that, I would think, would shred pretty easily. But as I said, just plain old copy paper I found probably would work the best. All right. I think I've got most of that off. Now, if you find that you've got a little white film on the back yet from some of that paper, a lot of times a little bit isn't going to matter, because by the time you adhere this to your backing or do collage work with it, you know, the glue or your Mod Podge or matte medium, whatever you're using, usually makes that disappear pretty well. Okay, I think this one's pretty well done. So as you can see, it doesn't take real long. I am going to get rid of my pan. Set that off to the side. Okay, so I've got my 2 images here now. And you know, this matte contact paper just has a very light kind of sheen to it, but for the most part it's matte. And like I said, when you start putting Mod Podge and glue and things on this, that kind of fades away. So there are my 2 image transfers, and as you can see through the contact paper pretty well. So if I grab, for instance, a piece of book page, and then you put this over the top, isn't that pretty? Get some nice print right through that image. And then let's look at the flower. And there's that one. And as I mentioned, you know, if you've got a lot of white in your background, you'll get more of your background coming through. If it's more ink and darker, then it won't come through as much. So that is it, guys. I like simple, easy techniques, and I think this one is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time, bye-bye.